What's going on, guys? I am Seth from Wired Customs. Today we're going to be looking at a Gigabyte GTX 960 graphics card. We're going to be seeing how well it performs with somewhat modern titles, as well as benchmarks, and what to look for when you decide to buy a used GPU. So here we have the Gigabyte GTX 960. It's obviously an air-cooled triple fan card, so I expect cooling to be pretty good. Now, when you buy a used GPU, before you even install it, there's a couple things I like to look at. Make sure all these ports are pretty well intact. You know, obviously look in there and make sure nothing's damaged. From what you can tell, I can't really see anything. Make sure all these fan blades are intact and secure on there. If you are missing a fan blade, replace that fan ASAP, because if you have an unbalanced fan, especially something that spins fast, it will be unbalanced. It'll destroy itself. You don't want anything rotational, unbalanced spinning, because it will break. I check the input slot right here, these teeth, make sure these are all intact and not damaged. And look at the heat pipes on the VRMs. You know, really just all of them actually. Make sure they're not bent or squished. Make sure all the fins are straight. From what I can tell, this card's in pretty good shape. And then check the power inputs. Make sure those aren't broken or plugged up with anything. No parts of the PCB seem to be damaged. The back of the actual processor is exposed, but it seems to be untouched. It seems to be just fine. There's no scratches or scuffs, nothing broken. So this card looks like it will perform as advertised. So we are going to go ahead and install this and get on our way with the benchmarks and the game performance. Okay guys, just a disclaimer to start off with. My monitor is a 3440 by 1440p monitor. Yes, it is an ultra-wide 1440p, but we are not benching or doing any gaming, anything in any other resolution in 1920 by 1080p. That is the only resolution of any benchmark or any game we will be dealing with today. So don't say, oh, the FPS was low because it was 1440p or any of that. Nope, everything is going to be in 1080p. I'll show you the settings before I start it. Let's run up Heaven. And we will see how it benchmarks. Everything over here is factory settings. I'm not looking to overclock or do anything crazy because every card is going to be different. So I want to show something that's pretty consistent. Just what to expect out of the box. And this is the Gigabyte G1 Gaming Windforce 960. So I'm going to fire up this benchmark and we're going to see what kind of numbers we get out of it. Hopefully it's something decent. So I'm going to cut to the results. Okay, so this card got 28.4. Not something to be proud of really, but I mean, I don't know. I don't have anything to say about that. The frame rate is gonna be probably, I'd say a little bit less because I'm recording with OBS Studio, so cut it some slack there. But the fact that the max that it got was 60 is not good. And again, you can see down there in the settings right in front of you, 1920 by 1080. Yes, it has 8x anti-aliasing. Everything is on ultra, and tessellation is extreme. That is how Heaven should always be run. That's pretty much the national standard of what to test your graphics card on with Heaven. Those are the settings you should always have. Are you going to be gaming at these settings? No. No, you're not. That 28.4 is not an accurate representation of what your gameplay will be like, just because every game is so different, uses different engines, has different textures, different rendering, I guess. There's just so many things that come into play here. But just for reference, in comparison to other cards, it got a 716 score on Heaven. Yesterday when I benched it without using OBS, I think it was closer to 800. So again, cut it some slack today because I am using OBS as well, so that will contribute to it taking a small hit. So yeah. So I'm not gonna run Firestrike for the simple fact that it takes pretty much your entire system into account. Your CPU capability, your RAM clock speed and latency, your drive speed maybe even, what you're using for storage. So just because there's so many inconsistent outliers there that come into effect for your score for Firestrike, I'm not going to be running that because that won't give you an accurate picture of what the GPU itself is capable of. I'm using a SATA 3 SSD for storage for my OS and everything. I have an 1800X on an X470 Asus board. I'm pretty sure most people with GTX 960s don't have 1800Xs, so that would give you just some weird score that wouldn't really represent anything. So I think Heaven is a really good way because it is mostly GPU dependent, if not entirely. So we're just going to go ahead and run on into some games. So after a lot of trouble trying to get Borderlands to launch, compromise with Borderlands 2, here are all the settings that I'll be using for this demonstration. I think it's a pretty decent compromise of performance and visual aesthetics. So we're not going to be setting everything all the way to max and overloading the GPU and getting garbage frame rates, but I think these are settings best suited for this graphics card. So we can go ahead and get into some gameplay so you can see what the game looks like. I tried to shoot the desktop so you can see all of the, afterburner and cam settings, all of that, but it was not filming the game very well on the desktop screen, so I decided to just set it to focus on just the game. And I mean, you still get this overlay, so you still can see all the stats well enough. So this is Borderlands 2, somewhat medium-high settings. Again, this is 1080p. I'm actually running this in windowed mode. Hitting 70 to 80 frames per second, so that's very good for what it is. The GPU is not going over 50-51 is just about where it's sitting at. So these temps are outstanding with this Gigabyte card. This card runs very cool. Gun I'm using is absolute garbage. That's a lot better. Well, it's marginally better. Oh! Oh, I just realized this is auto. Wow, that's embarrassing. So, even if it seems kind of choppy through the recording a little bit, I assure you it is buttery smooth on my monitor. I'm not seeing any lag spikes, any stutters or anything. Everything looks great. And again, this is 1920 by 1080. uncapped frames. I am running it in windowed mode.
I think a fight's coming.
For whatever reason, I can't get it to show average frame rate for gameplay. Okay, so the average frame rate feature does not want to cooperate for whatever reason. But that's fine, you can kind of deduct that on your own. Based on what you're seeing here. Now we're dipping down into the position. We have a lot it still feels really smooth though, it doesn't feel like 50. It's actually, it looks really good, honestly.
Just been waiting.
So Borderlands 2 seems to be in between 50 and 70, and there are settings you can turn down definitely that will improve your gameplay frame rate, so keep that in mind. This isn't like bare minimum settings, you can get higher frame rates if you want. So we are going to move on to the next game. Okay, so we're going to see what kind of frame rates Call of Duty Black Ops 3 gets. I have the match all set up. We're doing 7 bots each side. Everything's medium settings for the most part. No anti-aliasing. This is offline. This is only with bots. So I don't think game usage would change online. I could be wrong. I hope it maintains these frame rates. This is pretty good. And again, 1920 by 1080p. Even on medium settings, it looks pretty good. Wow, my cursor speed. Need to adjust that. This is terrible. Oh no. Oh man. That's so bad. That is unplayable. Oh, controls probably. Mouse sensitivity. Why was that so low? Oh, wow, that's pretty insane now. It's better than it was though. Okay, yeah, it's a bit much. Take it back down to 8. Oh, that's pretty good. I have no idea what class I have now. I think it's the same one. Not doing too well. This whole playing on part of a screen deal is kind of weird. My sensitivity is all weird. What is happening? Oh my god. So we're holding about 95 frames per second, which is outstanding. You know, this game looks really good, and I'm pretty impressed with frame rates with everything being medium, honestly. This is to the point where you could probably play with anti-aliasing on. But you know, with this being a Twitchy game and wanting to get those frame rates, I probably would recommend taking the frame rates over the aesthetic appeal. And I have not played this game in such a long time, so I'm doing inexcusably terrible. This is the first match I've played in quite some time. I didn't even do a warm-up match. No.
Flame specialist down.
Oh man, yeah, it seems like we're holding really consistent frame rates here. Until, why is this loading? Disconnected. Oh. Yeah, for whatever reason Steam keeps thinking I don't have internet. But anyways, there you have it, holding about 95 FPS. Okay, so after a long fight with Far Cry 5, I finally got it to load. OBS and Far Cry were not cooperating whatsoever. But here we have the video settings. So display resolution 1920 by 1080 always. And this is a very demanding AAA title, so I have anti-aliasing off and I have everything set to the minimum setting in hopes that we can achieve 60 FPS. I'm not sure. Really, I'm on the fence with this one. My 1080 even struggled with this game in 1440p. This is pretty demanding. It's no Crisis, but as far as modern day titles go, this one definitely puts a strain on your setup. So here we go, load it in, and yep, averaging about 45, 50, depending on where you're at. So it doesn't look terrible. I mean, not to bash on consoles, but this looks about console quality. It's extremely playable. It's still smooth. It's not choppy or anything. It's pretty enjoyable. This wouldn't be, a deal breaker for me by any means. So yeah, even Far Cry, it holds its own against, which is really impressive. This is proof that you can game on a budget. You don't need a 1080 Ti. I don't know what's up with all these guys just standing there. It's kind of buggy and weird. But yeah, so we're averaging anywhere from 45 to 60 seems to be the range we're bouncing around in. I wanted to grab that chopper and fly around because supposedly looking down at ground units, it puts an even heavier strain on your GPU because it has more objects it needs to process. I don't know where the chopper went, but I think it's pretty safe to say that you can expect what's happening? You can expect anywhere from... Oh no, this isn't good to go well. I don't have any grenades. We can expect anywhere from 45 to 60 frames per second. Oh my god. Alright, well, it seems like I am out of everything. Oh. Except for this. Okay. Well, that is Far Cry. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, so we're going to load up Paladins, which is very similar to Overwatch. It's a free-to-play version with microtransactions available if you desire to customize certain things. Here are all of the settings I have. Everything is set to max. Even anti-aliasing is on 8x. So we need to actually get rid of VSync. That would kind of ruin this. And look at those FPS fly up, 175. Alright, well that's on the menu. I'm going to queue for a match. And then we will see what kind of frames we get online.
To light their way.
Okay, so after 40 years, we finally loaded into the match here. Everything looks awesome, absolutely zero stuttering.
Keep up.
We're sitting at a solid 130 to 160 frames per second. That is
The battle is about to begin.
I mean, obviously we're in the small enclosed area, not a lot going on.
Stay blessed.
Once we get more characters involved, maybe our frames will drop. But the fact that it's sitting where it is right now tells me that
5,
getting actually into the
4,
match is not going to change
3,
much.
2, 1.
I guess we'll
And
find
so
out.
it begins. An enemy has drawn first blood.
Going pretty well. No stuttering, no issues at all. Not only that, but I seem to be getting a pretty good amount of kills this round.
Killing spree.
I will not allow you monsters to live. My light flickers.
So yeah, this is not stuttering, it's not anything, I mean, it's putting out frames considerably higher than the native refresh, and there's no tearing, it's completely smooth.
Enemy killing spree. Double kill.
I can't use that yet.
So this is just a good time playing this, there's no issues. I'm sure this 960 would put out the same frames on this game as pretty much a 1080 Ti would. I mean, this is really
spree.
going great. I have zero complaints here. Alright, well, I will say that is enough of a demonstration on this game. We will move on to some Portal and see how well that handles it. I'm sure it'll be in pretty much the same boat, because that is also not a very demanding game at all. Okay, so now we are going to give Portal 2 a shot, see how it does with the GTX 960. We are at 1920 by 1080. And if we go into advanced, I have anti-aliasing maxed out at 8x. Of course, I have to give me all stupid descriptions. So, VSync is off. For rendering, I have everything maxed out. So we're going to apply. And we're going to go back. And we're going to play some single player, and we're gonna see how this does. So far, these frame rates seem to be half decent.
Sarcasm self-test complete.
Oh good, that's back online.
So
I'll
yep,
start
it
getting
looks like we're
everything
playing
else
at
working while you
almost
perform this
200, a little
first
above
simple
200
test,
sometimes maybe.
which involves deadly lasers, and how test subjects react when locked in a room with
now
deadly
we're down to
lasers.
100. Man, I forget how hard this game is. So that's shooting a laser beam out. Where does the laser beam need to hit? Careful where I put that laser. There or something? Oh, probably. Go figure. Okay, come over here. Oh, that's good. Okay. Do that. Get over here. And then
Not bad. I forgot how good you are at this. You should
you.
pace yourself, though. We have a lot of tests to do.
Okay. Whatever you say. So yeah, obviously Portal is a joke. You can you can play this on integrated graphics on a really old Intel laptop. I mean,
This next test involves discouragement redirection cubes. I just finished building them before you had your, well, episode. So now we'll both get to see how they work. There should be one in the corner.
Okay. Well, I don't know what to do about that. Oh. Alright, well, I'm not going to spend forever on this one because I've gotten a little ways in the game. So, we're going to go ahead and just chalk up Portal 2 to an inevitable success. I mean, let's be real, we all knew this was going to play well. So, moving on to the next one. So, obviously, we're going to test Fortnite. I mean, what kind of a review video would this be if I didn't have some kind of overhyped popular game on here? So, display resolution still at 1080p as always. I put everything down to medium just because I'm not sure how this is gonna go. VSync is off, no frame rate limit, so all of this is pretty much just stuck at medium at 1080p. So we're gonna go back and we're gonna do solo. So I'm gonna try and play a little bit. We'll see how this goes. So far, the menu frame rates are pretty good, sitting at about 200. But I have a feeling that once we get in game, it will not be telling the same story. Okay, so just playing around here. Mess around getting 80 to 100 on medium settings. Let's go ahead and see if we can crank this up to high. Apply. Okay. On high settings, we're getting 60 FPS. Frame rates are looking pretty good. Where do I even want to drop? Put a Greasy Grove, why not? So this is high settings at 1080p. We're still in the 70s. Like, this is doing pretty well. Also, disclaimer, I don't usually play Fortnite. This is not going to go well. Just letting you guys know, apologizing in advance. I apologize if this looks kind of laggy in the video. I'm not sure what's up with that. It's completely smooth on my end. I don't know why this gameplay is so choppy. That's really frustrating. OBS is impossible to deal with. So, yep. I'm about to die immediately. Need to get out of here. Need to leave, need to leave, need to leave. Found some shells. Oh, yep. Alright, well, that was a quick demo of Fortnite. High settings, getting about 70 to 80 FPS. So that worked pretty well. Alright, well, I think we're gonna call it. Okay, so for the GTX 960, I think it is a great option for budget gaming. It beats out integrated graphics, and at $110 used for a solid card, that is almost impossible to beat. Temps never went over 50, didn't give me any problems. Very capable card. I would recommend it for any budget build. So we will be incorporating this specific graphics card into a budget build that we will be doing here shortly, that will be available for sale. So be sure to stay posted. As always, like, follow, and subscribe. You can contact us on Facebook at facebook.com/wiredcustomscoppell. That's WIREDCUSTOMSCOPPELL. Thank you for watching, and have a good one.